Hello and welcome back to Up the Villa. On today's episode, we are going to be talking all things Aston Villa v Bournemouth. We're going to be going to the tactical pad and taking a look at Iraola's Bournemouth system. We're going to have a look at the data behind Bournemouth season so far. We're also going to pick one key Bournemouth player. Who do you think it is? Who do you think I've picked? We're also going to predict the Villa lineup, and we're going to have a tactical look at all of the two teams combined and have a look at where I feel like this game will be won or could be potentially lost for Aston Villa. So, Iraola, Bournemouth, I can only say really good things. I think they are brilliant, and I think he's a top level coach. He's elite. He's brilliant. As a neutral watching them, I'm thoroughly entertained every single time I watch them. They're intense, pressing, like endeavour is just really good. They are a well-coached team. So, they've got young players that come through out of nowhere and you're like, who's this? And he starts bagging. So, there's a lot to like about this Bournemouth team. And I really like Iraola. And I've said before that I do feel like he's a bit of a mini Emery. I think they're from the same region, and I think they've got the same values and they're actually quite similar in how they actually work. So let's go and have a look at their system then this season. And in essence, they're a 4-2-4 and they press in that front six. It's intense. And when I read through some of the numbers in a second, you're going to start to see how intense their team actually is. So far this season, they've scored 17 goals with an XG of 11.76. So they are overperforming their XG. They've had 120 shots and 46 of those have been on target. And that has them sixth highest in the league for that metric. They've scored 5 set-piece goals. They're having 50.7% possession per game. 34.5% of their passes go forward. 16.5% of their passes go backwards. And that's the fourth highest in the league. And Villa sit fourth lowest for passes going backwards. They are seventh for most final third passes, 69% accurate, and that has them in 11th place. Aston Villa accuracy in the final third is at 72.6%, and that has Villa in 6th place for that. Now, this is the interesting part that we all need to make sure we're listening to. They are the third most pressed sequences in the league with 120. So they are pressing monsters. They're sitting third in the league for pressing, second for most high turnovers. So they press high, they win the ball back high, they turn over possession high, and then they tear down your goal high up the pitch. And they have 80 high turnovers this season. 15 have ended in a shot. 2 have ended in a goal. And they are at 18.75% of those being shot ending. 7th in the league for 10 plus pass sequences with 102. Aston Villa have 95. Second for direct attacks of 19 and they've got 2 goals. They've conceded 14 goals. 114 shots on their goal with 46 being on target. 100% of goals have been from inside the box and 2 goals have been conceded from set pieces. So we go back to the tactical pad and we have a look at the areas where they are going to be pressing in. Here, they press very high with the 2 central midfielders jumping, pressing, and what ends up happening is they can quickly suffocate the opposition. Now, one thing about Iraola that I absolutely love is that his system kind of doesn't change for who he's coming up against. It shows bravery. Now, they press high. So why would they press high and then sometimes come up against a team that is superior to them and go, actually, nah, we'll just sit back? They'll go and have a go. And this is what they did against Manchester City. They went there and they had a go. And you can actually see that the tactical makeup of their team, and this was against Man City, by the way. Here we've got the 4 at the back. the 2 central midfielders, and we've got the front 4. So you can really see super clear the 4-2-4. And I think this really shows the bravery of pressing with that front 4. In a second, we'll come back to this and we'll show the areas that Aston Villa will be able to hopefully find some weaknesses in their team. Now, if we go and have a look at some of the areas and the things that they have been doing really well this season, and we'll kind of talk about Semenyo, and we'll go into Semenyo in a little bit more detail in a second. But here we can see him breaking on the edge of the box, tearing down on that Liverpool goal. He's able to get to the opposition box, uses players as a bit of a decoy, uses a defender to curl his shot. Very direct, really good. Again, we can see that Semenyo now is on that far right-hand side. We can see that normally he plays on the left, can play on the right. But you look at that threat of these 2 players trying to get in and exploit the Liverpool team. It's important that you don't get into these zones, that you're making sure that you are structurally set up correctly. Here's one that I find really interesting, and it talks about the intensity and those pressing from the front and being very intense. Here we can see a Wolves player who has got the ball in central midfield. You're thinking, okay, take a touch, get it at your feet, roll, turn, drive. No, look at this player. Look at this player. He is going, that's my ball. You've got it. I'm having it. And look at the intensity. That's not a short distance to press. That is a large distance to cover, to press and engage. They win the ball off this, you know. But again, we can see the front 4. We can see the 2 midfielders in here. Left back has gone in there as well, suffocating the opposition, not allowing the opposition to breathe and not allowing them to be able to play out. Hopefully, Villa will be able to play out. We should be able to. Again, Semenyo on the opposite side now. You're thinking, okay, he's been doubled up on, no problem. We've got a couple of defenders in here that can block and recover and get back. But no, he dribbles all the way into here and he's able to score. So you've got to make sure that you are defending him well. And then late arrivals in the box. We can see Semenyo, late arrival. We've got 3 players in the box as well. So I think it's important that we make sure that we are shutting down Semenyo. That's very, very important. But I want to go to a graphic now that I'm going to start to introduce now, because I actually feel like 10 games in, we're able to highlight this a little bit more now. And I think it's important to take a look at each team's style. So when I'm talking about how a team plays, let's have a look at what the numbers of the zones where teams are getting into. So here we've got Bournemouth's zones over a pitch, okay? So the purple are where Bournemouth have majority of the ball. The pink is where the opposition have majority of the ball against Bournemouth. And the grey are contested. So it's either or. So as we can see, that if we look at the left-hand side, this is like Semenyo, isn't it? This is his zone. This is where he's operating. So you would imagine that his zones are going to be Bournemouth dominated, which they are. They are pretty okay knocking it around the back. But again, midfield, not bad, because if it's contested, sometimes they're getting the upper hand, sometimes they're not. And then you've got these areas here where they're contested and the opposition are having a lot of the ball central into these areas. So let's compare to Aston Villa's now, because if we merge them together, you should be able to see a pattern of what Villa could do against this Bournemouth team. How are the 2 styles going to look when you compare them together? So if we have a look at Aston Villa's now, here we've got Aston Villa's. So we know that Bournemouth had this zone here. So Bournemouth had this zone, didn't they? Let me get my pen. Bournemouth had that zone, but Villa are actually quite strong in it as well. Villa are very strong in that central area of the pitch. Opposition are having a little bit of the ball more against Aston Villa in that area. But Aston Villa are actually quite dominant in this area. So if Villa can win this midfield battle, and personally for me, Villa are very strong in there. That should show that Aston Villa are going to have a decent enough foothold in this game. Right, let's go now and let's pick a player. You know, I've picked Semenyo, don't you? So there's no point me like having a guess who it is. It's Semenyo, right? So let's have a little look at Semenyo zones then. So as we can see, we don't want to do that. We want to do this, don't we? As we can see, Semenyo's zone, especially there, going into those areas, is very strong. Defensively, his zone's quite good there as well. If we have a look at his major touch map, you can see that there is his biggest area. And from there, again, we want to go into that area. But with Semenyo, which is really good, there is a versatility to what Iraola can do with him. Left or right, keeps the opposition guessing. During a game, can he swap sides? Yes, he can. So 21% on the right, 55% on left wing, 1% as a striker. So it shows that he can possibly go left or right, but majority of the time he's down the left, so he would be attacking Villa's right. His pass map, forward, backwards, sideways, diagonals, he's got the lot. Again, a big zone that we're going to have to watch out for in there. And a lot of his goals, a lot of his shots are coming from that central area through there. He's got an XG of 3.81. So again, his zone was around there, wasn't it? And he wants to get into that area. And that's where predominantly he wants to do a lot of his damage. Right, let's talk about Villa then. So let's go and have a little look now at the Villa lineup of what we could possibly do ourselves. Now, I've got two solutions. Well, not solutions. Two, what's the word I'm looking for? I'll say variations of what I want to do. Two variations. So I'm going to go with Pau, Konsa. I'm going to go with Digne, Cash. I think Digne will be back in. Maatsen played well against Maccabi Tel Aviv, but I think he will go back with Digne rested. Some players came off the bench, didn't they? Buendia, McGinn, Watkins probably tells me that they're starting at the weekend. Midfield 2, Kamara Onana. We saw the impact of Yuri Tielemans on the pitch 5 minutes, put a curler in for Daniel Marlon. So, but I think it's probably a little bit too soon for him to come straight back in. So he might get minutes. And I'm going McGinn on the right, Rodgers left, Watkins up top, and it's out of Buendia or Marlon what I go with. And the two do completely different things, as we know. So do we want Buendia and have a bit more structure to try and break through and find him through the lines and be a bit more structured centrally? We know McGinn's going to go in there anyway, so we are going to be quite narrow. You know, we will be pretty narrow, won't we? So we'll probably look somewhat like this. So, you know, a lot of Villa's work will be quite narrow and central because we don't have any wingers. But the other option is if we want to go with that split. Do we want to split the back line? Do we want to stretch them a bit more? Do we want to go a bit longer? So that's the kind of little dilemma that I've got, that I'm not sure what to go with. So what I've done is I've put Marlon in there to start with. So the big area in this game for me is this. This is going to be the biggest area in this match for me. When Aston Villa are playing out from the back. If Aston Villa are tight with the ball, slick, comfortable, got the ball under control, and we're knocking it about, and we're breaking through the lines, and we're going Pau, and he gets pressed, and it goes back to Martinez, pressed, and we're able to kind of come and play out a little bit and get into these areas here, the danger zone of Rodgers and McGinn, either side of a midfield 2, then that is what we're going to have to do. They are going to press us like crazy. We know that. We know that they are second for the most highest turnovers in the league. They are the third most pressed team who are pressing, by the way. So they're the third most pressing team in the league. So they're going to press us. What are we got to do? We've got to play through them. How do we play through them? Do we play through them on the floor, or do we play through them a little bit by, let's just move everybody out a little bit so it looks a little bit more controlled here then, right? So say, for example, it looks a bit like this. Do we do the little switch? Do we switch Watkins and Marlon and stretch them like we did against Burnley and pose big problems in that aspect? Possibly. Emery spoke after Maccabi Tel Aviv saying that he wasn't sure whether he was going to keep playing Marlon, Watkins, etc. So there's the situation. Or do we go with Buendia in there? And to be honest, I've no problem with if it is Buendia, by the way. So it's just depending on what we kind of want to do. I feel like it might be Buendia, just because I think on the ball, I think he may look after it a bit more. And he was class against Man City, wasn't he? So it's going to be a similar type of feel to how we've got to play through them. Now, let's just go back a second and let's just have a look at the average positions against Manchester City for Bournemouth. We know that they are not going to change the way that they play. They're going to come to Villa and do what they do. So if we have a look at the average positions, for me, there's a glaring place in this team where we can dominate the game, and it's central midfield. I look at the midfield too, and we can see 12 and 8. Look at in behind number 8, in behind number 12, just behind Semenyo, 24, behind number 7. Those are that's the danger pocket area, because what we know is that this Bournemouth team are going to press really high. They're going to press high, aren't they? They're going to press with that front four. They did it against Man City. Then they're pressing that front four. What does it leave? It leaves a 2 in midfield. Set the trap. Get in and around the midfield too. Make the distance between the front four and the back four quite large. Because if you create the larger distance, then there's obviously a lot more space here, here, here. Those are the areas for me that we need to be doing a lot of our work. So with McGinn going inside a little bit, Rodgers going inside, Buendia in there, you start to look at the overriding numbers and go in and around there too. There's a double pivot of Villa. There's Rodgers, McGinn either side of it, Buendia in that little pocket. Let's try and isolate Semenyo a little bit. Tavernier can drop at times as well. Evan Nielsen, or they could go with Krupi. And you've got Brooks as well. So why I've gone with McGinn on the right as well is that look who he's up against. Let's go Cash, McGinn, Kamara, and Konsa on that right-hand side. That 4, I think that is quite strong for Villa. Now, we could go on the opposite side, and you've got Digne, Pay, Rodgers, Onana, which is fine. But I actually like McGinn out there, and I think McGinn is very important for Villa now. I think we're starting to realise how important he is for this team. So there's my little tactical makeup of the game. I think I've covered everything. I think I've covered everything. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but we can't be loose on the ball. If we're misplacing passes, if we're giving the ball away in bad areas, it's going to be a long, long afternoon, because this Bournemouth team will just gobble it up and drive and create chaos. So I think the best version of Villa have got to turn up, and actually feel like Watkins not being in the England squad helps. Tuchel's saying he's got a little bit of a niggle he's working through, but he needs to score some goals. Watkins, he needs to get a bit of fire in his belly now. And I think this England situation could actually help Villa. So he needs to perform well in front of goal. We need to create some more chances. And I think we need to build on a good result against Maccabi Tel Aviv. We need to get level on points with Bournemouth. Let's go into the international break in good shape. And yeah, just attack the game and try and do really well. We've got good players on the bench that can come off now. Tielemans, Sancho, you could have Marlon on there. So yeah, squad's looking healthy. Midfield wise, there's only Mings and Garcia out. So hopefully you've enjoyed this episode. Quite insightful from me, giving you a lot of information. Looking forward to it tomorrow. We are going to have the opposition preview with some familiar faces, so stay tuned for that. So on your way out, if you can make sure you subscribe to the channel, smash and hype the episode up, comment your thoughts. Up the Villa.